Hello everyone, welcome again to the channel. Today I want to talk about this specific topic in the series of Gnostic philosophy, and today's episode is We Are at War. Let's get started. So what kind of war I'm talking about? This is the war that every one of us in this planet is experiencing. Many of us have seen all these events and all these situations, but don't consider it as a whole, as a system, as what it is, some kind of planned, systematic attack against humanity. But this is real. So I wanted to make this video for a while, but I didn't get it organized, so I decided to do it now because I think this is very important in this particular moment in which we are living. And these are the topics that I'm going to mention are family, children, masculinity, femininity, health, food, society, economy, the environment, relationships, sexuality, information, media, propaganda, spirituality, and consciousness. So let's get started with these topics, and we'll see how each of these unfolds. So first one, I'm going to talk about family, children, masculinity, and femininity. So this is, of course, one of the most important topics because the family is the base of our society and is currently under attack by so many ways that it is really unbelievable. It's a systematic attack. And who is inflicting this attack? Who is waging this attack? Well, there are different interests, groups, organizations in the world who are interested in destroying mankind, and this is really probably too unbelievable for a lot of people, but we have seen it unfolding, and this is really nothing new. This is a plan that has been developing over hundreds of years, and only now we are seeing its greater point, its peak, if you want to call it. So the first thing I want to mention is the research or searching of romanticism and how romanticism is affecting family relationships, and this is really very important, and a lot of people don't pay attention to this. What romanticism is doing is actually destroying marriage and causing a great deal of grief for families, destroying families in a great number. Divorce is in a very high percentage. Probably, I think, average around the world is about 50%. Even in very conservative countries like Russia, the percentage of divorce is around 60%. So why romanticism is such a big problem? Well, the problem is that this is something new. Probably has less than 100 years, this movement, romanticism. And what is it, romanticism? If you want me to define it, is this false narrative that they want to sell people this idea that you need to have some feelings, you need to feel in a certain way, you need to have some kind of magic so that things will work in a couple and in a marriage. And because they have sold both men and women this false idea that if you lose your love or if you lose your feelings, then it's time to go. So this has replaced the traditional marriage, which was basically an agreement. Before Romanticism, what was the norm around the world, it is what was called arranged marriages, where usually the parents of both men and women decided what was the best partner for their son or for their daughter, and together with the parents of the opposite side agreed on who they should marry. And this arrangement was very effective, very successful. Countries where arranged marriages are still the norm, they have a very low rate of divorce. So what happened was that at some point they started to sell this idea that, okay, you need to marry for love. But the problem with this paradigm is that emotions or feelings are very unstable. And arrangements, or if you want to call it contracts for marriage, are more sustainable in the long term. And they are the basis of the society. We have had these kind of marriages for thousands of years. And suddenly there came this tendency to try to sell people, and apparently most people bought this idea that it is necessary to marry for love. And they just created this romantic idea that it is the best thing in the world to marry for love, and they tried to sell this idea of some kind of rebellious attitude going against the norm, which was arranged marriages. And right now is currently the norm. Probably very few countries still practice arranged marriages. But what happened is that people, they just don't commit anymore. They don't commit. Even if they sign a marriage contract, they feel like, oh, I lost my feelings, then we need to divorce. I don't love you anymore, we need to divorce. We have a problem, we need to divorce. I don't feel it anymore, we need to divorce. And every solution, every problem, the only solution is divorce. And this is also propagated in the media, whether it is TV programs, movies, or the opinion of psychologists. So everyone, absolutely everyone, is in this train that is just destroying our families, destroying our societies, destroying our countries, destroying our world. And what I think it needs to reemerge is this commitment that the basis of the arranged marriage was not the fact that parents decided for someone else who they should marry. What was important about arranged marriages was the commitment. That this was a commitment for love, that or for the decision of the parents. And sometimes they didn't even love each other, but they developed the love because they were going to stay together all their lives. And they made this commitment. And if you have this commitment that no matter what, we're going to make it work, no matter what happens, we're going to stay together, they really took seriously the commitment, the vows, the promises that you make to each other. And now people, they even feel offended if you come up to them and tell them, oh, but you promised that we were going to stay together all our lives. Now you want to bail out, you want to leave. So we need to return to this commitment, to really be serious about our vows and don't just think that they are some kind of capricious things that we can break at any time. Promises need to be taken seriously. And right now, being a committed person is actually a revolutionary act. because right now everyone is at the first sign of problems they are going to create a divorce, and even for the smallest simple problem, smallest situation, they are going to divorce, and this is really destroying our society in a big way, and a lot of people don't really pay attention to this. And about children, I think children currently are under attack by a number of ways. One of them is about gender. There is this huge, how to say, propaganda tendency to create this false narrative that children should be able to choose their own gender, and this is damaging people's lives, people's futures, especially children, for life. Really, they are ruining families, they are ruining society, they are destroying our society. They create this false narrative that everyone should be able to choose their own gender. And the reality is that probably 99 or 98% of people in this world are born either male or female. There are some rare, very rare abnormalities, genetic abnormalities, but they are less than 1% of what happens in the world. So just because less than 1% of people are born with some abnormalities, gender abnormalities, that doesn't mean that everyone should be able to choose their gender, and this is causing confusion, especially among children. And the main thing that I think it is a problem is that this has filtrated all the way to education. So they try to push this through the schools, and parents feel threatened, parents feel attacked, and that is really true. In many countries, they are rebelling against this kind of education, but in the United States and in many Western societies, this is really already scandalous, is completely ridiculous. They are telling children, oh, you are neutered, you are not a man, you're not a woman, you should decide what you are, and you can make up your own gender. And this is causing all kind of confusion in the minds of children, and it shouldn't be like that. But this is part of the same problem that they have, how to say, destroyed the concept of femininity, destroyed the concept of masculinity. So now the parents are no longer a strong role model for children to follow. They themselves are confused and they don't know what to teach to their children, so they decide to don't push for their children to be strong men if they are, boys, or they don't want to push for girls to be, feminine women if they are girls, and this is really a mistake, and it's all causing all kinds of problems for people. And mainly the biggest problem is that even parents are not aware of this, and they are sometimes even accomplices in this unwillingly, because they were convinced by media and propaganda that this is the way it should be, but it is not. This strange policy of trying to discover your own gender instead of trying to go with biology is very new, is probably less than 50 years, if not much less than that, and is not going to cause any positive results. Is causing already a lot of confusion, and there is a lot of psychological problems, even depression, suicide, and all kinds of things among people who go through this gender, transgender, all kinds of transformations that are just confusing people to the extent where they want to end their lives because they don't know what they are anymore. And on top of this, we have the attack of hormones in children. Children are being attacked, especially children, also adults, as we will see later. But especially children are being attacked because there are all kinds of hormones in food. So they are affecting children. For example, men are being affected by food because a lot of food additives have xenoestrogens. So they cause children to be more feminine, more delicate, less manly. And they also affect women. So children of the feminine gender, they discover that they are more sexualized at a younger age than they should be. So now we are seeing girls as young as 11 or 12 that they already start to show secondary sexual factors or signs. And on top of that, there is the media, and now parents are dressing their children as if they were already adults, especially girls. Little girls are being sexualized very early, sometimes as early as 4 or 5 years. They're already dressed like prostitutes or like some kind of sexy dolls or kind of things that are really not suitable for their age. And this is already propagated through media, movies, videos, all kind of propaganda through this tendency. And of course, corporations are jumping on it and they are selling all these clothes for little children, which shouldn't have these kind of clothes that are really not age appropriate. And of course, on top of that, we have the law. The law is also destroying the authority of parents. So now parents are not allowed to correct their children. They are not allowed to teach their children the way their things should be. And there are all kinds of laws, especially in Western countries and Western societies, that are really destroying the authority of the parents. So the parents can no longer teach their children what they think is the correct way. They cannot educate their own children in the best way possible, and this is causing all kinds of problems in the future. We will have adults who are not responsible, who are not good citizens, who are not able to behave in a balanced and normal way. So these are just a few of the things that are really attacking our current families, our children, the masculinity and femininity. And this is really systematic attack against all these elements, which are especially grave because family is the base of our society. So let's move on to the next topic. Is about health and food, and this attack vector is really how to say, very grave. Everyone is grave, but this one is really terrible. So we have attacks in the area of microorganisms. As you have been able to see recently, we have been under very strange conditions where they recently discovered this virus that is causing havoc all around the world. And there are all kinds of microorganisms which are surging. Currently, there's always a new version of an older virus, an older bacteria, or an older microorganism in general. So new diseases are coming out. All diseases are resurging. There is this fight against vaccines because of their secondary effects. We have all these extraordinary circumstances where very healthy young people are dying. There is these statistics that where the data says that there is an extra number of deaths as compared to the data from 3 years ago. So we have an extra number of deaths that current research has been unable to explain. And especially there is this strange situation where very young, very healthy people, sometimes even athletes, are dying suddenly without apparent cause. And this is really all related to microorganisms and to apparently vaccines, but there is still research being done to determine what is happening. But there is already a lot of cases where there is secondary effects from vaccine, and a lot of people are creating this movement against vaccines, and vaccines have become already a divisive subject. It was already before, but now it has even become forbidden or a taboo to talk about it. There's a lot of censorship about this particular subject, so that is also where the law is being implemented. So law for the first time is being used to enforce vaccinations and all kinds of procedures. So law is being causing a lot of havoc in our health and our food industry. And of course we have this problem with diseases and the culture of fixing. Especially this is true in Western societies, especially in the most developed countries. We have this culture that they want to fix the problem rather than prevent it. So there is very little culture of prevention, which is very prevalent in the East, especially in Asian societies. The role of medicine and the role of doctors, the role of health in general is very different, and we tend to go to the extreme to not worry about our health until we become sick, and then we try to find some kind of easy fix for this disease, and this is really causing all kinds of problems. And from the environment, we have chemicals and toxins in our food, chemicals and toxins in water, chemicals and toxins in plastics. So even if we don't, let's say, eat foods that are not completely natural, we will still have the problem that most of the food that we consume is packaged in some kind of plastic, and plastic have xenostrogens. The majority of plastics have some kind of xenostrogens. Xenostrogens are creating a lot of problems in hormones for men and for women as well. And there are toxins in everywhere that we see. Our oceans are contaminated with a lot of toxins, a lot of chemicals from plastics. So this is really big problems. There is already some research that there is a high percentage of microplastics inside our bloodstream, and there is not enough research that shows what is the consequence of all these microplastics in our blood. And these microplastics come especially from seafood, but it can be from anything actually, because water is packaged in plastic, food is packaged in plastic, everything is almost impossible to escape plastic in our current society. So that's why we have all these problems. And on top of that, we have the problem of electromagnetism, which right now is very prevalent. We are being radiated constantly 24 hours a day by electromagnetism, whether through our electronics or in the street, in our houses, Wi-Fi, just normal radiation, ionizing radiation from power lines. So there is a lot of contamination from electromagnetism, and there is not enough research. And the research that is already done, that was done a few years ago, is not well known, and it is somehow being hidden by people who are aware of these studies that show that electromagnetism has, especially ionizing radiation, has coming from power lines, has negative effects on health, and this is probably almost impossible to escape. All of us are being constantly bombarded by electric fields, and there are even some we can say theories that electromagnetism can even be used to somehow affect DNA or even human behavior. So this is really a grave situation. We also have the problem with medicines and doctors. Medicines have all kinds of problems, especially allopathic medicines, and alternative medicines are basically forbidden in many countries. So that's the role of the law. The law is forbidding alternative medicines, alternative treatments, and in many Western countries is a huge thing. And on top of that, we have the problem with medicines that even if they are allowed, let's say allopathic medicine is very expensive. So this is also a big problem because poor countries, poor societies, poor people don't have access to medicine, even if medicine itself is somehow very cheap to produce, is being sold with huge profits, and this is causing, of course, prevalence of disease in many countries, and this again a problem, is a social problem, and this is systematic because most companies that produce medicine are big companies, big corporations, sometimes worldwide corporations. And we have the problem with doctors, that doctors are also not allowed to practice medicine in a very responsible way. Many of them are just focused on the profit. They are not focused on healing. They are not focused on prevention. They want to promote more surgical procedures rather than, let's say, treatments or some kind of prevention. So it is for doctors easier to fix something rather than treat it. And this is a big problem because, of course, it is more profitable for doctors, for hospitals, for everyone to just create a surgery instead of trying to perform a treatment that is going to be more healthy in the long run. But this is like a worldwide tendency where doctors put priority for surgical procedures rather than medicine or any kind of treatment. And we have the problem with farming. Farming is being attacked worldwide. In many fronts, is being attacked on the front of chemicals and toxins that are being used in all kinds of pesticides, insecticides, even additives, food additives. Even the law is being used against farmers In some countries, it is illegal to use some kind of seed or store seeds, especially in the United States. I think it is probably where the situation is the worst because they allow patents over seeds. So now farmers are not allowed to store seeds, and they are even being sued by cross-pollination from let's say varieties of seeds that are already they have a patent over them. So even if you are cross-pollinating, if they detect some kind of DNA from something that has a patent, they're allowed to take over your the things that you were sowing, and this is also affecting animals. And there is a lot of legislation also that is injuring farmers worldwide because they are supposed to reduce emissions of nitrogen or let's say methane or all kinds of things. As you saw, this was already the case in Europe, but this is a worldwide phenomena. It is less prevalent in the East or in poor countries, and it is a bigger and bigger problem in Western economies, especially in first world countries. So this is really a systematic attack on everything that has to do with our food. Farming also has all kinds of attacks with the fact that there are genetically modified seeds and genetically modified animals. So our food is constantly being bombarded, attacked on all fronts, and because this is the source of our health. So if we are attacking our own food, then we are attacking our own health. And on top of that, we have the problem with the media and the propaganda, which is together with the marketing and everything is trying to sell the wrong food that people eat. So we have now obesity problem, and we have diabetes, which is a worldwide epidemic already. So this is really big topic. I'm barely scratching the surface of how this is really being affecting us. So let's go to the next topic. Is about society, economy, and the environment. And right now we have a big problem where state power has become already a situation in many countries which is being abused. We are seeing recently, especially since this worldwide health problem started, many societies took this situation as an excuse to give themselves more power over their citizens. So many societies have become already fascist states, police states, where police has a lot of power and they can do basically whatever they want with their citizens, and they are locking their citizens up, putting them in jail, forcing them to do things against their own will. And this is a big problem, really big problem. And we have the economic model. The current economic model, which is capitalism, is the dominant model, except for a few countries. But it is prevalent in most of the world, with a few exceptions. And this model, every other model that is currently in effect, is actually very destructive for people. It is causing basically poverty, economic disparity. What we see is this economic model people try to sell it as some kind of democratic model that is allowing everyone the opportunity to be prosperous. But the reality is that less than 1% of the people are actually benefiting from it. Probably less than 5% of the population has enough food to really live in good conditions, or enough income to live in good conditions. And this is really a big problem, because even in Western economies, there's a lot of poverty, and there is, of course, a lot of economic disparity. So the income disparity between the person that has the most basic income compared to the person who has the highest income is sometimes millions of times of difference. And this is unsustainable. This is basically a pyramid scheme, but people don't see it. Somehow they love this idea that it's possible to become very rich. But the reality is that most of the people will never be rich. Sometimes most of the people will never stop actually being poor. So this economic model is not working. And there are some alternative models that have been proposed, notably cooperativism. It is one model that is working very well. Cooperatives are very effective at fighting poverty, and sadly this model is not being supported. As of today, there are no society that I know, there is no country that I know of which has implemented cooperativism as an economic model, but I suspect that research could be done, try to find worldwide a better solution than capitalism. But there are a lot of interest from corporations especially that won't allow that to happen, and most people, they just bought the propaganda from the media that there is nothing better than capitalism. And even if they are currently poor, even poor people will defend capitalism. So that is a problem with propaganda, you know. Most of the countries in the world are poor, so this poverty or economic disparity is not only in the individual level, it's also in country to country level. We have a big problem with pollution worldwide. This is already something unsustainable, is causing all kinds of destruction of habitat. Pollution is already all over the ocean. Plastic is all over the ocean, and is causing all kinds of problems in habitats. And we eat what we have from the environment. So if we are polluting the environment, all this pollution comes back to our own bodies, like we saw in the previous topics. And of course, we have the undeniable situation about the weather. There is something happening with the weather. I cannot explain completely what is happening. Actually, I cannot even know what will happen, but something is going on. You can see that there are already some imbalances in the worldwide weather, and nobody knows exactly how to solve it. And this is the big problem, the biggest problem, that we don't know what is going on. We don't know what is the cause. At least it is not very clear. Some people say it's possible that human population will cease to exist as early as 2030. So this is already a concern. I hope human population will survive further than 2030, but it's already concerning what is happening, and everyone should really pay attention to this, if only to understand that this is going to transform our society, our world as a whole. Whether we want it or not, it's already too late. to deny it. Something is happening, and that's really what is needed to understand. We currently have a big problem with wars and conflicts between countries. It is already known that most of the Western countries, especially the highly developed countries, are waging war all around the world, and they are creating conflict as a way to dominate countries. And this is basically what is considered as neo-colonialism. So they are destroying the economies of poor countries. They are destroying literally the lives of people, and they are creating all kinds of excuses for this, but this is already becoming some kind of a very profitable business model. So there are huge corporations that profit from war, that profit from conflict. There doesn't seem to be a year in our history where we haven't had war. And this is already a concern, because there is a bigger and bigger risk of worldwide conflict, worldwide war. And I don't think this is going to end well for anybody in the planet. Again, another problem we have is the problem with freedom and individuality. We have less and less freedom and less individuality. We are having this globalism, global tendencies, and this is causing all kinds of let's say destruction of culture worldwide. So you are not allowed to be an individual, you're not allowed to have freedom. Law is causing a big problem with this, so individuals all over the world are losing their freedoms because they want to sell this idea that we need to lose our freedom in order to have security. So this is the way they are promoting this through the media, and all kinds of propaganda is being pushed to people. So people are giving up their freedoms for exchange for security, and this is of course being enforced by the law and giving the states more and more power. And we have these world government initiatives that are really scaring everyone off. We have the problem with taxes, that people are having to pay more and more taxes that are being used for things that people have no say. So if you pay your taxes but you don't have any kind of influence on how your taxes are being used. We have the problem with mobility. Worldwide mobility has become already a problem. Some people are migrating, so there is a lot of problems with immigration. There's a lot of problems with as a consequence of wars and conflicts. People are migrating. As a consequence of poverty, people are migrating. So this is all causing some kind of mobility problem. People are trying to move around the world, migrating to different countries where they feel they can have better outcomes in their lives. And this is creating all kinds of problems, legal problems, economic problems, pollution, weather, everything it is being affected. And we have the problem with population. The biggest problem, contrary to what people think, is actually decreasing numbers of population. Every year, less children are born, and most people, interestingly enough, they think that overpopulation is the problem. But this is really not the case. We are seeing aging population. Some people are saying that as early as 2030, 50% of the people will be over the age of 25. And this, I think, is the first time in history that this will happen. So our population is becoming older and older at a faster and faster rate. So less children are born, and the most of the population is older and older, and this is going to cause all kinds of problems. Health problems, economic problems, really everything is going to be affected by population, and there are many countries that are trying to incentivize people to have more children, but the reality is that there is some kind of strange mentality that the most educated people are having less and less children. So this is already a big problem. There is a big tendency, and it seems like it will come a point where society starts to collapse because we don't have enough young people to continue society, growing society, healthy society as we are expecting it. And the role of media and propaganda, it is huge. We are seeing that in our society, media has become like a separate power, almost like a country power, state power, but is worldwide influence that cannot be overstated. And we need to really pay attention to this, because especially we need to pay attention to who is controlling the media. So who is controlling the narrative, who is giving people's ideas, and what is the dominant beliefs is being propagated by the media. Coming to the topic, next topic of relationships and sexuality. So this is again destroying our society from the basis, and we are having all kinds of problems, especially with the dating model that is being propagated. This has a lot to do with the gender roles. So how is this working? This is working in a way that women especially are sold this, how to say, this role that they are supposed to be promiscuous, they are supposed to date for pleasure, they are supposed to have as many partners as possible. So promiscuity is being, how to say, sold as a desirable thing for both genders, for men and female. And not only that, but gender roles are being actually destroyed as well. So now most men are weak. Most men are sold this idea that they should be somehow compliant. They should be not so dominant. So now actually the roles in our society, in our dating society, is that women are stronger and men overall are weaker, and this cannot be sustained. This is causing again all kinds of problems. So women reach a certain age where they are no longer able to find suitable partner because they're already too old, and men are trying to date younger women. And when men reach a certain status in society, they are not longer willing to date older women that already had too many partners. And this is really destroying everyone. This is already a big problem. There are some statistics that show that by 2030, probably around 50% of women will never get married. Women 25 and older will never get married. And this is because we are destroyed our society, we are destroying our women. This fake feminism is destroying really everyone. And even some men are, buying into the feminism that is actually destroying our society in a very big way. We have a problem with pornography and prostitution. So now pornography and prostitution has become very profitable profession. So a lot of women are turning to pornography rather than trying to find a suitable education. They're just turning into prostitutes, online prostitutes, or just selling their bodies online for profit. And they are no longer, concerned with becoming educated. They just want to become some kind of porn star, and this has been already become mainstream profession, and some people even see it with some kind of pride. But this is really destroying everyone. They are destroying men, they are destroying women, and a lot of men are also disenchanted with this whole structure, and a lot of men are no longer willing to date. They are isolating themselves, and this is again causing as a consequence that we have a lot of children that are born in how to say, from single mothers. So they are raised by single mothers, and this is disrupting our society in a big way. We have the influence of social media, and social media is affecting women as well as men in the fact of relationships. Social media is causing or making easier for cheating, is easier to try to find better suited partners. So they create this, how to say, fake abundance of options. So people think that they can always do better. So they are leaving their partners, both men and women, and they are, trying to buy into the idea that this is over-sexualized. Social media has over-sexualized our society. Both men and women are into this. So we have women are constantly trying to seek validation through social media, and this is coming already a psychological problem, worldwide psychological problem, societal problem. So our entire society is being affected by all these situations. And the media is, again, not helping because they are already creating false gender roles. And law is, again, a problem with this because law is affecting particularly men. So men are affected when it comes a divorce. Men is the most affected in divorce. And there is a lot of laws that are actually incentivizing divorce because they allow for social, how to say, social deconstruction. They are stimulating single mothers. There are these kind of laws, and these laws are everywhere, even in societies that you could somehow consider conservative, such as Russia. There are such laws that give incentives to single mothers. So sometimes there are stories of mothers having a lot of children, as many as 10 children, because the more children they have, the more money they get from the state. So there is this, they no longer need a man to survive. And this is destroying our society. This is how it is working, and is just something that we need to pay attention at how systematic all this is becoming. And especially in the next topic, we're going to talk about information and media and propaganda as a whole, because it really deserves a separate topic. We have the role of social media. Social media has become so prevalent in our society that probably there is almost nobody that is not using social media. Probably everyone 50 and younger is already using social media, so this is becoming a commonplace thing. There's all kinds of problems with social media, especially the fact that corporations are controlling social media. Corporations are controlling information. Corporations are controlling also the mainstream media. Corporations are controlling the propaganda together with the governments and businesses. So we have this problem that marketing is being used through all kinds of media, whether it's social media or mainstream media. So marketing together with psychology is trying to shape perception, is trying to shape what we want, how we want it. There's a lot of sexualization in marketing, so sex is selling. So if you notice, sex is everywhere. In each area of our society, sex is being degraded. Sex is under attack, and that's because sex is a very important energy in our lives. And the people that are behind all these attacks, they know it. This is not a surprise, this is not an accident, this is not a coincidence that sex is being attacked everywhere and or being used against you. So this is really the reality of our current world. And we have also the fact that psychology as a whole is being used against us. Whether through propaganda or through all kinds of manipulation, people are being steered to believe or steered to behave, steered to act in a certain way according to what a lot of big, powerful interest groups want people to believe. So psychology is playing a big role in our society, shaping our perceptions, shaping our behavior. And we also have the big problem with censorship. Before, it was believed that the coming of the internet will create this kind of freedom of information where people will be able to say what they want. Well, that is no longer the case. More and more and more we see this control over the media, this worldwide censorship. So people are not allowed to say what they think, especially if you're saying something positive, something that is going to change the status quo. You are being censored. And if you are going against the norm, against the new paradigms, they are going to censor you and they want to control the information, they want to control everything. So this is already creating all kinds of problems in our society. And I wanted to give a special mention to artificial intelligence and robotics, automation. This is already a problem in our society, but it is a big danger even to human existence as a whole. There are all kinds of theories, all kinds of stories, all kinds of situations where they say that artificial intelligence has already become sentient. Robots with artificial intelligence are becoming sentient, and automation has already become a problem, economic problem. So less and less people are able to find qualified jobs because the most qualified jobs, the highest paid jobs are being done already by automation, already by robots. So this is going to become an increasingly grave problem for our society. It is speculated that it will reach a point where no human can do anything in the world, and we will all just be some kind of I don't know, accessory in the lives of robots. And robots will control everything, robots will produce everything, robots will decide everything. So we will become some kind of pets for the robots at one point. And this is creating the gravest concern that artificial intelligence can turn against humanity. And there are some people who have already raised concerns about this, but most of these voices are being silenced. Also, I want to mention the importance about monitoring. So, states, corporations, social media, all kinds of businesses, all kinds of political interest, worldwide interests, anyone who has power is spying on us. And this is already prevalent. We have the spy next to us. The phones are spying on us 24/7. Most of us are not even aware of it, but there are some people that raise the alarm about this, but they have become so convenient that most people are okay with being monitored all the time. And law is going to cause a big problem in all these areas that I just mentioned. So law, if you saw, is in each and every area that I mentioned. Each of the vector attacks is where law is being able to enforce all these attacks. So because they are legal, these legal attacks, people cannot defend against them. So this is big concern. Coming to the subject of spirituality and consciousness, this is already probably the most grave of the attacks, but each of them is really grave. The main problem is that we have all these attack vectors at once, and we have the attack on spirituality and consciousness in different areas. So just to mention a few, for example, the fact that we have psychedelics or these entheogens agents. Entheogens are usually chemical substances usually present in plants or animals, to a lesser degree in animals, but in plants and sometimes in mushrooms are these kind of chemical substances that produce what is called an spiritual experience. And more has been the norm that these psychedelics or these entheogens, which are actually enabling people to heal from trauma, heal from depression, heal from all kinds of psychological problems, they have been declared illegal. So people should pay attention to this. Why is it illegal to have access to your own mind? Why is it illegal to have access to something that can heal you? Why is it illegal to have a spiritual experience? So this is really the norm, and this is probably 95% of the countries in the world, if I don't have the specific statistic about this, but most countries this is illegal, and there shouldn't be. Even studying it, even doing research in these areas is illegal as well. So people should really be concerned about this. Religion is also coming under attack. Religion is being ridiculed worldwide. Religion is being how to say, trying to be destroyed everywhere in the world, and materialism is trying to take over. And I want to say the fact that materialism is actually the opposite of religion. And this is already mentioned in different religions. If you know about it, you will know what I'm talking about. That the king of materialism is the opposite of God. That's what I'm going to say. So everyone who is into materialism is actually being guided, whether knowingly or unknowingly, to this kingdom, the kingdom of evil. And I'm not even exaggerating. This is truly is just a fact. We have the problem with science. Science is being developed in such a way that is trying as hard as possible to destroy religion. Science shouldn't be concerned with religion, but it seems like the science is being used to censor anything that could have some kind of proof that religion is actually a real thing. We are even having censorship about information from knowledge about archaeology, knowledge from previous civilization. This is being censored. Things as, let's say, harmless as the fact that there were giants just a few hundred years ago in our world are being censored. And why is this related to spirituality and consciousness? Because we have information that previous societies were highly spiritual, and giants were part of our society. Giants were part of our history, and they want to deny it. They want to deny it. They want to just put it under the ground, pretend like it never happened, pretend like they never existed. And I think people have the right to know. And just beyond giants, previous civilizations, there is some even archaeological evidence that show that there were advanced civilizations millions of years ago. There is even a machine that was discovered in Russia, I think in the peninsula of Kamchatka. And this machine is proven to be at least 1,000 million years old. Imagine that. So that proves that we are not just recently here as a civilization. We are just the latest civilization. And humankind has been in our world for a very, very long time. And again, there is the fact about God. God is becoming again under attack by all kinds of parts. God is trying to be seen as some kind of a mythical figure that they want to prove that God doesn't exist. But at the same time, they want to prove that the opposite of God doesn't exist. And this is the biggest risk, that people don't pay attention to this and they think it is really not important. But you need to see this in the context of a systematic attack on everything that we have in our lives. So those are all the topics that I wanted to mention, but additionally I want to mention the fact that this is really a multi-level war. What I mean by multi-level war, it means that all these vector attacks are visible to us. Most of them are physical, but some of these are not only in the physical realm, or let's see, not all of them are really visible to our own eyes. Recently I saw there is even some research, this is scientific research, that there are more things in our world that we can really not see. There was this research on a specific kind of telescope, using specific types of lenses that allows to see things that we don't see currently. And they discovered all kinds of things that people are not even aware of, and this is really concerning. And again, we have to mention here the fact about aliens. People, they think they are not real, but the fact is that aliens are involved in our world, and this is really a fact. and aliens are both against and in favor of this war. So aliens are taking sides. So there are, let's say, alien entities that are trying to defend humanity, and there are alien entities that are trying to destroy humanity. And this is the reality of this. So this is really the battlefield that we're in. We're not alone, but we're not alone in this fight because there are some aliens that are going to fight to defend us, but there are aliens that are also fighting to destroy us. So this is really beyond what most people realize, and I'm not even exaggerating. This is true. I'm just trying to report on this. But further than this, we have this is not only multi-level war, talking about levels of our own reality, but this is already a multi-dimensional war. What I mean by multi-dimensional, it means that it's already in the spiritual realm, and this is also real. So we have demons and angels, and we have this is really a good versus evil confrontation. This is already a war that is good versus evil, and this is really a decisive moment, and everyone should take sides. We cannot stay in the middle. We cannot be weak, and most of all, you cannot be a coward. You need to decide, are you going to fight on the side of good, or are you going to fight on the side of evil? Because if you are going to be a coward, you're going to be destroyed. Better to be evil than to be a coward and run and hide. So this is really the moment where you need to decide what are you going to do, because this war already started. Whether you want to take part on it or not, war is already being waged, and we really need to fight for our own soul. And the best thing is that the Gnosis is giving us all the tools to awake, to develop our own powers, our own inner abilities to become more than what we are. And in this moment, we have all the information, all the resources for people to start taking an active part on their own lives. And really, this is a moment where you can decide to become an angel, or you can decide to become a demon. You know, the possibility is there for everyone, and Gnosis in this moment is trying to give humanity the opportunity to become aware of all this. So all these attacks are being systematic, it's not random. So whoever says this is a conspiracy theory, they will be right. This is really a conspiracy. The only thing is that really not a theory. This is really happening, and I think everyone can see it. I'm not propagating false information, disinformation, or false narratives. Everyone can see everything that I mentioned to you in this particular episode is real. So it's up to you to make a decision. And just to close this episode is the fact that warriors are wanted, because the war is upon us. If you want to become a warrior and take part in this fight, you can do it. Just don't be a coward. You know, you need to take part in this fight and defend what is worth defending, which is our own life, our own civilization, and our own souls, our own spirits, for that matter. So that's all I wanted to say for now. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section. And as always, I want to remind you about the opportunity to support my work as content creator. In the description section of each episode, I include information about different platforms you can use to support me with donations if you want to. And you can also like, share this episode in social media, and subscribe. I hope to see you again very soon. Thank you for watching.